This video is about how much notice your employer must give you if you're fired. Usually your employer must give you notice in writing. There are two ways they can do this. Your employer can tell you that they're letting you go on a specific date in the future. You're expected to work until that day. This is called working notice. Or your employer can let you go right away. This happens more often. Your employer must pay you the money you would have earned if they'd given you working notice. This money is called termination pay, or pay in lieu of notice. If your job is covered by Ontario's Employment Standards Act, or ESA, there is a minimum amount of notice or termination pay your employer must give you. This is between 1 and 8 weeks, depending on how long you've worked at your job. Your employer does not have to give you any notice if you've worked for less than 3 months. You can ask the Ministry of Labour to order your employer to give you termination pay if they don't give you the right amount. But it's a good idea to get legal advice before you apply to the ministry, because you may have the right to get more notice than what the ESA says. This is because there are court decisions that say employees should get reasonable notice. How much notice is reasonable depends on your situation. For example, you may be able to get more notice if you're close to retiring, or if it's hard to find a similar job in your area. You may have to negotiate with your employer about what is reasonable notice in your situation. If you and your employer can't agree, you have to sue them in court. You can't ask the Ministry of Labour for reasonable notice. If you're fired, get legal help before you sign or do anything. Ask a lawyer or paralegal to look at your employment contract and any documents you got when you were fired. They'll help you understand your options. For more information about getting notice when you're fired and other rights you have as a worker, visit stepstojustice.ca, your guide to law in Ontario.